617 290 16 60 pour plus d'informations. Et pas oublier, nous sur toutes plateformes yo tant Roku, Facebook, Firestick, YouTube et nous sous chaîne 31.3 local. BCN, c'est télévision pour communauté caribéenne.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Our Voices, Our Community. I'm your host, Michelle Etienne Campbell, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for what promises to be another interview discussing what is important, being informative, and empowering about the issues that pertain to you and our community. I am pleased to have today a woman who is a trailblazer in our community, who has made history as the first Haitian American female president of the City Council. RUTHZEE LOUIJEUNE. Welcome, RUTHZEE. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
It is exciting and fretful in this political landscape to be any political leader in Boston or anywhere else. But particularly in Boston, we have specific issues that pertain to us. And one issue is, of course, we know that all politics is local. And immigration is a huge issue nationwide. Particularly here in Massachusetts, immigration has been a real hot button for a lot of reasons. From your perspective, can you kind of just talk to us about how immigration has changed the nature of what you do on a day-to-day basis, and how your constituents and people within the community have really engaged with immigration, or how they feel about immigration, and what we're doing over these next few months, and what we have been doing over the last year about the influx of immigrants coming into the country?
That's a great question. Thanks. First of all, thank you. I'm happy to be here as the first Haitian American elected on the Boston City Council. I hear you interviewed another great former city councilor, now Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, and I'm grateful for all of those who came before me so that my story would be possible. You know, it's interesting. I'm a local elected official, which means I deal with potholes, lights are out, issues of schools, community safety, but we've been seeing as a Commonwealth and as a city an increase of migrants coming into the city of Boston, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and a lot of them, right, a majority have been from Haiti. Even if they're coming from another country, they are of Haitian descent. And so I think what has changed for us in Massachusetts is that typically the sort of immigration that we get, Haitian community immigration, let's just say, is people who are coming. There's a cousin here, or there's a
Right.
family member here, or a friend, or something else that is an impetus for folks to come to Massachusetts. What we're seeing now is people coming with sort of no connection,
Right.
with no one to put them in a home, with no support, and that's really, really difficult. Geographically, we're not a border state, and so we haven't had to deal with people coming into the state. And so it has presented a real resource challenge for the city and the Commonwealth. But we also need to remember that we are a Commonwealth that is welcoming to all, and a city that is welcoming to all. We are stronger with our immigrant populations when we have shortages in the labor and the workforce like we do now in hospitals and some nurses and bus drivers. We historically, this country has filled them through immigration. And so it's both there's been some benefits and there's been some stressors on our systems, right? And then you get people saying all the time, well, I'm a senior, I should have housing. I'm a veteran, I should have housing. Why are migrants getting housing before I do? Well, I believe that we can walk and chew gum, but we do have a housing crisis here in the city of Boston. And so it's definitely been challenging.
I like the fact that you've kind of led into my next question with regards to housing. And with regards to a lot of social resources that people who live in Boston, who are citizens of the United States, often say that immigrants are pulling from their resources. We saw, the 45th president say that immigrants are taking our black jobs, whatever that may mean. But I've also heard that locally. I've also heard that from people in Massachusetts saying, hey, the cost of living is rising. I can't afford food at the supermarket. even though I'm working hard. But an immigrant can come in and they have full food stamps, they have full medical, they have, you know, everything they need. There's an imbalance here. What do you say to constituents that say that?
You know, anyone who needs mass health and health insurance is able to get it and should be able to get it here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Housing is hard, and one of the issues around housing that makes it difficult is that in Massachusetts we are a right to shelter state for families. So if there's a family that's here, we are obligated under the law to shelter them. What is generally true is that if you are struggling to pay rent, but you're paying rent and you're living in a unit and you're looking for something, or maybe you're living with your mother or you're living with a family member in a way that's not identified as homelessness and you can't find something on the market, it is being and living in a shelter. It's not a fast track to getting a supportive, to some sort of support for housing, but and it's not for migrants versus non-migrants, but people in shelters. No one wants, our government does not want anyone staying in a shelter for a very long time. And so with our really working really hard to try to get people placed into permanent housing. And that's true if you're an immigrant or if you're not. So again, I don't think anything is a zero-sum game. I don't ascribe to putting people against each other. I care about our senior citizens. I care about our veterans. I care about our disabled and our differently abled. And I care about our immigrants and our migrants. I care about everyone. One of the things that we need to make sure that we are watching for is making sure that we are helping people also apply to jobs. So those who are getting some sort of assistance, even if oftentimes it's a form of temporary assistance, they'll be able to subsist on their own after a while. That's why jobs is very important. We in the city of Boston have a number of vacancies, and if there are people who are interested in working for the city of Boston, boston.gov/careers, a lot of job opportunities.
But in reality, are these vacancies that immigrants that are just coming into the country actually can come into? Because a lot of them have language barriers. So the types of jobs that they're able to do are definitely going to be, you know, jobs that, you know.
Yeah, well, that was a disclaimer for all jobs, for anyone, if anyone is looking for work. There have been, the Parks Department has seasonally hired some new arrivals who aren't able to speak English but are able to work in parks. But yes, that is correct, Michelle. When you're looking at folks who are arriving who are eager, I've been at job fairs and I've seen tons of new arrivals, and I'm the one translating for them. And that's a problem because, you know, so we have been trying to invest on the city council in more English language learning classes so that people can learn the language, that then they can find a job.
Let's go into housing. Housing is an issue. It's been an issue for Massachusetts for a long, long time. And, you know, of course, the cost of living in Boston is astronomical. It has been astronomical. And there are a limited number of available affordable housing for individuals who are here. Compound that, I mean, everything is going to be focused on the migrants coming in. Compounding the number of migrants coming in and finding places for them to stay, is that adding to the problem of housing, affordable housing for our community?
It's not making it any easier.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, it's not making it any easier. Yeah, because the thing is, housing is a human right for everyone, and then people have a better outcome. They have better outcomes. Their children are safer if they have a place to call home. And so, but I always say, you know, it's really important. If we want to deal with the migrant crisis, we have to deal with the countries that are from which people are coming. American foreign policy to Haiti needs to be significantly better.
Right.
And it needs to be run and in partnership with civil society in Haiti. And so if we are really talking about, like, what is it going to take to stem the migrant crisis, it takes a better Haiti. Yeah.
And again, as I mentioned, all politics is local. What do you think, based on the fact that Massachusetts is a state that's opened for and shelters or supports migrants, what do you think will happen if in November Donald Trump becomes the president again? What will that look like for Boston?
I'm not speaking into existence. That's why we all have work to do to make sure that we are going to the polls, getting people to go to the polls. We already saw what it looked like when he said some terrible things about the country of Haiti, when it was really hard for you know, everyone who is not part of the good old boys club. And so we know what that looks like. We know what a worsening Supreme Court looks like. We know what all of that looks like. And so we have our work cut out for us, but we can't allow that to happen in November.
But the reality of it is, we can't say that it's not going to happen or we can't happen.
But
we have to plan.
Yeah.
Like, what would that look like? And so, in a way, kind of outlining for the community what it would look like. It's particularly our community, the Haitian community. What would it look like? Because some of us are not really excited about voting. Some of us have the opportunity to vote and don't vote because it's like, my vote doesn't matter. But once we really have an idea of what this is going to look like for you, if, you know, one thing happens as opposed to another, it's important for them to kind of have an understanding. And how do we, as leaders in the community, help individuals to understand how important this is?
The difference between the two candidates might seem trivial, and you might say, oh, one is old and the other one is older.
Yeah.
But think about the decisions that, just look at the Supreme Court. The positions of the Supreme Court, they're nominated by the president.
Right.
I would much rather see Joe Biden nominating people to the Supreme Court than I would want to see former President Trump. And so it's not just about, and look, you know, neither president has been great on immigration, if we're being honest. Neither president.
Not just the two of them. We're talking about presidents over the course
over time. Over time. So, I mean, people make the argument sometimes, oh, it's a lesser of two evils, but think about all the decisions that have to be made as president. And it's not just about do like this person or do not. It's about everything that they represent or what power you want to give them. And I feel more comfortable giving that power to Joe Biden by far than I do to Donald Trump. And that's how I think we have to look at it.
Absolutely. I just want to kind of shift to talk about climate change and its effects even here locally. A lot of times, you know, again, this network and this particular show is probably viewed by majority Haitian Americans. People in our community who live in our community probably don't really focus much on climate change. But climate change really does affect everything that's really taking place in our lives. Even down to, you know, how hot it is in Boston
right now,
and how it's affecting people in our community, perhaps maybe more so than other communities, because of what they call, the heat
Island effect, yeah.
And can you describe that or explain that to the people who are watching?
Yeah, it's in neighborhoods that don't have a lot of trees or green space and have a lot of cement. The heat island effect, then those are heat islands, and so cement traps heat. So if you're in an area with a lot of cement, it's going to be warmer than you are if you're in like a field and there's grass, or a neighborhood that has a lot of grass. And we feel our heat island effect in Roxbury, in Dorchester, in Mattapan, in our low-income neighborhoods.
And it affects them health-wise.
Yeah, absolutely does.
You know, a lot of our people have asthma, whether you have heart conditions, whatever your ability to walk or move around is really affected by that.
Yep.
What can be done, and what can the people ask the Boston City Council to help them with in terms of dealing with these issues? Is it that they need to have, you know, maybe the ground's painted black so that the light reflects off of the roofs or whatever, or maybe have solar panels, or what can be done to assist our community in dealing with climate change?
Well, we're trying to do some of it at the city, electrifying school buses. We're trying to remove a CO2 out of the atmosphere, and electric buses help us do that. We have building emissions policy that is all with the goal of eliminating emissions from our medium to large buildings by 2050. And so there's work that we're doing on the city council to strengthen and to strengthen our environment. I actually passed legislation to allow beekeeping, because beekeeping is important. Bees are important pollinators. And, you know, if we're supporting more beekeeping, more likely we're going to have more luscious backyards and neighborhoods. And so everything big and small is part of the conversation when it comes to climate justice around our city.
You talked about some of the initiatives that you've kind of put forward. Can you talk about other initiatives and other accomplishments you've had as a city council member and then also as a city council president? I know it's only been a couple of months, but still, I know a lot has happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, during my first term, I fought for funding for housing for those who are formerly incarcerated, for those who are new arrivals. I fought to double the budget of the Office of Returning Citizens. That's the office that deals with people who are returning home from incarceration. And for the first time ever, we had the city in that unit give out grants to nonprofits that are addressing issues of recidivism and that are really working to prevent people from going back into prison or jail. They, for the first time, gave out grants to Black women-run organizations, right, who oftentimes have a harder time getting access to money and funding. And so I was really proud of the work that we did there. I led on the redistricting effort after a judge had thrown out the map that we had worked on. Every 10 years, cities and states are, and every government is required to redistrict. And so it was a very contentious, very political process that I ended up leading after the federal court sent it back to us and was able to get, I think it was 11 councilors to vote in favor of the map and 2 voting against it. So that was a very big accomplishment that I made, and I continue to advocate for things that people care about, like parks and libraries and public spaces and affordable housing. I started my career as a housing attorney, so that's one of the reasons why it matters so much to me.
That's wonderful. And I know this is a Haitian show, and ça passe tout le monde content que nous là. And of course they want to hear their city council person say something in Creole, so greet them in Creole so that they can feel happy.
Ki janouye, moi là, moi content que m'ka là ensemble avec nous tout.
What are the challenges that you've been facing over the last few months as the new city council president? I know the city council is made up of 13 different individuals, different council members from different districts or different areas, different backgrounds and culture, with different opinions. And we've had some rockiness over the last year or so. And how have you, as a new city council president, been able to really manage that?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to set the culture of inclusivity and collaboration and working together. And saying, like, we're going to disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable about it. Last term, my first term, was a rocky introduction into the political world. And so this year, we went rock climbing together. We did, like, a training together, really trying to build a new and better body. I am no one's boss. I'm the president of the Boston City Council, but there are 12 other members who have their own opinions and their own politics that they're working through and with. But, I think I try to bring all of me to this job, and the lawyer part of me sometimes kicks in with making sure that we are going by the rules, by the books. If you ever watch a meeting, you'll see me oftentimes referring to rules in a way that maybe folks haven't seen in the past, because it's very important to ground yourself in the rules.
I know your family is very proud of you in terms of the work you've done and what you've been able to accomplish as a young Haitian person. Fais-nous connaître qui gens que bagayoté leur t'a grandi ici dans Boston avec parents haïtiens surtout parce que nous connaissons en tant que parents haïtiens une différence entre gens ou élevé timoun pa nous avec gens américains élevé timoun yo. Et pour nous ouais nous gon petit nous qui élevé dans communauté même j'ai avec moun noyo mais à la même fois petit nous ka à Harvard à la grande école, à faire grand travail, avocat, à travailler dans grand bagay, to the point where Kounia ou c'est président city council.
Yeah, réussite pas moi, c'est réussite papa, réussite pas moi, c'est réussite communautaire. Moi grandi dans 20 communautaire, c'est ça me toujours dit parce que papa m'était toujours là, il a fait caméra pour télé créole avec Wilner Auguste. Il a la fait Shirley Kounia avec Télé Galaxy, il toujours dans la communauté. Moun toujours dit pour qui ça entraîneur à faire politique là, puis il toujours dit c'est parce que c'est avocat ou il est dans Harvard ou il travaille pour sénateur Warren. Mais ça c'est pas raison. Raison c'est parce que papa me montre qui gens pour qu'il y ait un bon monde, qui gens qui aider monde. I'm called to this work because we're called to be each other's keeper. Pas connaître qui gens dit ça en créole, but we're called.
Il pour supporter une autre.
Yeah, c'est travail nous là. C'est pour nous supporter une autre. Nous connaissons comme Haïtiens, nous toujours dit, mais en pile, je pas nous. Et puis c'est ça, je crois vraiment, Donc, vous connaissez, parents viennent là, ils sont Haïti, ils n'ont pas de l'argent, ils n'ont pas de parler langue là. Ils travaillent en pile. Papa me travaille dans un travail qui est le Store 24. Il n'est pas là encore, mais il travaille sur ça en State Street. Et puis maman me travaille dans McDonald's, elle fait venir, mais après, il fait comme en pile, l'autre haïtien, il a fait CNA dans l'hôpital de Cambridge là. Et puis, il levé pour me connaître même, pour me connaître dans la tête moi. Pour me connaître qui c'est une fille haïtienne américaine, je tape grandi et puis je grandi me tape li timali c'est bouki parce que papa me était venu pour maîtriser langue là. Toujours dit moun même les langues là langue là. Et puis je toujours dit que c'est éducation. Vous connaissez comme haïtien je dis l'église l'école la caille. Pour moi c'était vrai. Et puis ça c'est papa me était toujours là, il était toujours avec moi même avec toi Sam. Pour assurer qu'on a besoin de bonne éducation.
Wonderful. Okay, we did the Haitian part. Parce que langue créole là, on connaît un petit pasteur dans l'église, Bishop Nicolas, la voix de l'évangile. Et chaque fois que je pour me prêcher, je suis toujours supposé prêcher en anglais, but for whatever reason, God blesses me, c'est encore les sorties. But, moi toujours dis que langue créole là, son langue prêtée. C'est pas langue pas moi, Jean-Loup, but still, it works.
Yours is not as low as mine. Yours is much better than mine.
So we're done with the Creole portion. Now we're going to the English portion again. This is great. I think that the job that you're doing is a great one. It's a big one. You need broad shoulders to do it. Where do you see, under your leadership, the Boston City Council over the next 4 years?
City Council president terms are 2 years, and so I have this year and next year, but I hope that over the next 4 years and the years that continue that we are a city council that responds to constituent issues, the housing crisis, getting rid of rats. Like those are the things that people care about. Are we improving schools? Are we working on climate justice? Are we bending the needle are we bending the arc towards justice? Are we returning phone calls? Even on my drive here from City Hall, okay, that's the time that I have to return phone calls that I have. How do we make sure that people know that we embody good government? And that's what I want for the City Council.
Wonderful. You mentioned the rats. What's going on with all these rat people? They're like people. They're the size of people. What are going on? I don't remember having so many rats before. What's going on?
COVID really disrupted their living habits, their food habits.
Wow.
Really, rats exist off of trash, water, and food. And we make that all possible. The dirtier and messier we are, but oftentimes when you're in cities, restaurants also contribute, and it's hard. We have actually a rat birth control pilot happening in Jamaica Plain, giving rats birth control as a way to,
as opposed to killing them?
Yeah, as opposed to killing them. With rodenticide, which is less safe and not as good for the environment, and it's harmful to children. So I think we're going to see rat poison, rodenticide going out the way, and then hopefully, it's still in this trial stage, and so far we've only seen a 60% success with rat birth control, but it's the way of the future.
I have to process the rat birth. I got to process the rat birth control. The Supreme Court justice is trying to take away birth control and healthcare for women, but we have it for rats. God bless us.
Yes.
This is wonderful. I think that being a Bostonian has its challenges, and particularly being an African American or Haitian American woman has its challenges. I'm sure it must have its challenges in leadership as well. What are the challenges in leadership that you're seeing, or are you seeing any particular challenges in leaders as an African or a Haitian American woman that you don't think perhaps your white counterpart or other predecessors have not experienced?
Yeah, I still think that we're still a city that's embracing what it is, which is the true Boston one, where we have Haitian Americans, Irish Americans, Dominican Americans, Polish Americans, and we are all Boston. No one neighborhood owns it, no one group owns it, no one ethnicity owns it, and so but there are some people who don't like that, and so there are a lot of challenges from people who like the Boston of yesteryear, right, where it was the same sort of last names getting the jobs, or it's the same people who knew X person, and that when you're trying to change that, there can be a lot of hate thrown your way. The job is very, very demanding on my time, and so I love it. It's a blessing. It's a calling. It's where God has placed me to be. But oftentimes it gets hard to juggle running from one thing to another. You know, I am an at-large city councilor. I'm president of the Boston City Council, and I'm Haitian American in a moment of crisis that I've been called on at the federal level and the state level to really help address issues. And meanwhile, I'm a whole little local elected official. So I would say, I mean, those are some of the challenges. And politics is not for the faint of heart, right? Some people bring out sharp elbows.
Right.
I don't have sharp elbows because this is a calling, and God has called me to be myself and my best self, and that does not include, you know, I don't got to knock somebody down to look good. I'll look good because I work hard, and that's it. But, you know, there's still a political landscape and minefield to navigate, and that can be really hard.
Final couple of questions for the community who is listening and wants to get information in terms of if they have issues, if they need more support. How do they reach Boston City Council? How do they reach their council person?
Yeah. Si vous avez des questions, si vous voulez aide, si vous avez besoin de support, carré le bureau, numéro c'est 617 635 43 76. Encore numéro c'est 617 635 43 76. Ou commander pour Cindy, elle est haïtienne, une jeune haïtienne qui travaille ensemble avec moi et puis il fait vraiment bon travail. Ou envoyer un email dans RUTHZEE.LOUIJEUNE LOUIGEUNE @boston.gov. That's ruthzee.louijeune@boston.gov, and my phone number is 617-635-4376. You can also find me on Instagram at RUTHZEE for Boston, on Twitter at RUTHZEE, well, X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Facebook as RUTHZEE LOUIJEUNE. There are so many ways to get involved. You can also come to City Hall. There's so many ways for you to get involved, for you to ask questions. At the end of the day, my favorite role is that of a problem solver because I like to solve people's problems.
Last question for you. You are so busy. What do you do to unwind and relax?
I am an extrovert and I get my energy in community, but it is important to recharge and to rest. I love going to lakes, beaches, traveling, hanging out with my girlfriends who I haven't seen in some time. Those are sort of my mainstays. I also like hiking in the Blue Hills, in Stony Brook. So a combination of things, you know, sitting with my devotionals, taking some time for reflection and deep breathing, all of that is important.
That's wonderful. I think it's important for all of us to hear it because everybody is fast-paced. You may not be the city council president, but you're moving, and you have to find ways to regenerate and rejuvenate yourselves. Exactly. As always. And life is not easy, but we've got to do it.
You got to.
Thank you so much for being with us. We are so honored to have you, and thank you for being accessible to the community and making the Haitian community proud with all that you have done.
Well, I mean, I didn't say this, like, I would not be here without the Haitian community. I would not, period. And I say that because people were out holding signs for me. They were donating to me, like, just like for anything from $25 to $200. It's just like, and I'm overwhelmed by the support and the love that I get from community, and I work really hard because I don't want to let anyone down.
Well, we love you, and we will continue to support you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you all for being part of the program, and we pray that you'll be back again at our next episode of Our Voices, Our Community. God, thank you, and God bless.
BCN, Boston Caribbean Network Television, c'est première télévision communautaire et commerciale qui est là pour promouvoir valeurs culturelles, sociales et historiques pays d'Haïti. Une télévision qui l'a 24/24 pour voir toutes nouvelles nationales et internationales. D'ailleurs, si vous avez aimé produire émission par sur radio ou bien sur télévision BCN, ou avez aimé nous filmer service dimanche l'église ou, pas de problème, juste relais dans 617 290 16 60. 617 290 16 60 pour plus d'informations. Et pas oublier, nous sur toutes plateformes comme Roku, Facebook, Fire Stick, YouTube et nous sous chaîne 31.3 locale. BCN, c'est télévision pour communauté caribéenne. BC.
The flavors are bold, the colors are bright, and the Caribbean is calling you to Orchid 7. Located in the heart of Dedham Square, Orchid 7 Fusion Bar and Grill is an excitingly delicious spot bringing fresh new flavors to the suburbs south of Boston. Chef owner Marie-Jean Francois and her husband Claudison hail from Haiti and have brought the cuisine of the Caribbean with them.
I like to describe Orchid 7 like a big giant living room where everybody welcome. Our focus here is the vibe, the music, the art, the ambiance that we offered, and our food is to die for.
When you come here, not only the food is delicious, we want to create the experience, right? So you don't have to travel to the Caribbean, you can come here.
Appetizers at Orchid 7 offer a little something for everyone, from colossal grilled shrimp with pineapple mango chutney, to Philly cheesesteak egg rolls with chipotle sauce, to fried plantain sliders topped with slow-cooked roast pork and creamy coleslaw. And if you want something cooked with passion and pride, Orchid 7 is the place.
I always tell people this, if I cannot serve something to my family, I'm not serving it here. Cooking is really important to me. I still want to make sure when you go home, you're going to think about my food.